It is August 15th, and this is the Board of Health in Duxbury. And pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023, this meeting will be conducted by remote means in accordance with applicable law. This meeting will be recorded and may be viewed at another time by visiting the localscene.media/Duxbury for information about Duxbury programming and watching replays on Duxbury YouTube. Our first order of business is 942 Union Street.
Good evening. I'm Freeman Boynton, representing the Keggies this evening. They have a septic system that's non-compliant. Basically, it's has a leaching pit that's below the groundwater, and they'd like to put in a new septic system. We're proposing to install a 1,500-gallon tank behind the house, and then work the effluent out to the front of the house into a typical leaching field consisting of a whole bunch of ARC 36 chambers. We have a high groundwater situation out here, and we don't want to be in a position where we are elevating the grade above the height of the driveway. The asphalt driveway is at elevation 72. And if you folks give us a variance to reduce groundwater separation by 1 foot under Duxbury supplemental regs, it will put the top of the leaching facility, or the cover over the top of the leaching facility, at elevation 72. And right now the driveway itself is pretty steep and awkward and is difficult in snowy situations. And if we had to raise it up another foot, it would make it near impossible to get in and out. So we're hoping you'll give us that variance. We went out with Tracy and did a perk test and found fairly decent soils on site. Although we had a little bit of a slow percolation rate, so we don't have to maintain as much groundwater separation as we would in a faster soils, but it should be a pretty good system, and it will much better protect the groundwater than what's out there in existence. And that's about it.
Is the house going to be for sale, or was it just determined it failed?
Well, no, he's just putting in a swimming pool. If you zoom in a little bit on it, Lauren, they could probably see that. We're installing a swimming pool in the backyard and kind of cleaning it up. It's their intention to live here for quite some time, and they want a decent septic system that they can sell the house with down the road. But for now, we're removing an existing swimming pool and putting a new one in. And they need to pass a Title V inspection or put in a new septic in order to accommodate the installation of the pool.
So if there wasn't a pool, would this be more conforming, or is that incline that you were talking about, would that still be there?
Well, in this kind of a situation, we find that the elevation of the groundwater follows the slope of the land. In the back of the building, the elevation's 75 roughly behind the house, and down by the street, it's almost 69. So the ground does drop off, and we found groundwater 43 inches below grade level. And so if we put the system in the backyard, they'd end up with a 3 or 4 foot high mound in behind the house. And we're not even sure that we'd find decent material. There's ledge in this area, but would be into a tank and a pump system and pumping it up into a big ugly mound in the back. So it makes sense to put the septic in a low area in the property so we can gravity feed the leaching facility.
Yeah, thanks for the explanation.
I looked in the file, the existing systems from 1968.
I'm familiar with this property as far as driving by it occasionally. I know exactly what he's talking about with regards to the driveway. So I think that's all good and well, and definitely good to see it go from a leaching chamber or a leaching pit to some chambers. So I don't see anything wrong with this.
Bruce, any thoughts or comments?
No, when I first looked at this, it said repair, and it's it's a new system. So, and I saw where the existing leach pit is. So, and it's also, well, it's more towards the side of the house. But no, I don't have anything. I just felt like it was more than a repair, and that's just a nit. I think it's a new system.
And it is a considerable improvement over what's there now, yes.
Yeah, I don't have any questions or concerns really either.
Right, I think we're ready for a vote. I make a motion to grant a variance to Duxbury Supplemental Rules and Regulations 1.1A, allowing the proposed soil absorption system be constructed 4.02 feet above maximum high groundwater versus the required 5 feet in soils with a perk rate of over 2 minutes per inch.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay,
Aye.
great. Thank you, Nick. Thank you, everybody. Comments and findings. This is an existing 4-bedroom dwelling with no proposed increase in flow. Number 2, the property is not located in a zone 2. And lastly, the system is not designed for a garbage grinder, or actually lastly, this is a repair of the original system that was installed in 1968.
Great.
Thank
Thank
you.
you very much. Have a good evening.
Thank you, you too. All right, moving to our second agenda item, which is a continued discussion with the Duxbury Safe Water Committee regarding concerns to the town's public water supply. And I see we have Mrs. Chen joining us tonight.
Thank you. I spoke to you last meeting about the Duxbury Safe Water Grant that was going to fund a study on HRP Associates to propose a complete forensics evaluation. You questioned me a little bit about it, and I have emailed with Melissa. What the forensics evaluation really does, it's going to create a fingerprint of PFAS, and it's going to tell us exactly which PFAS compounds are in the groundwater, because there are 14 different ones that are concerned with our water system, and it will make a grid. It will be a point of concern, and it will show in a grid, just like a wheel, how many compounds are in that point and what direction they go. Because if we can't slow down the flow of PFAS into our wells, we're going to end up trying to put filters on our wells that are going to fail sooner than later. And it's going to be a very expensive proposition. So if we can pinpoint the direction and exactly which PFAS components are going into that particular well before we put a filter on it, hopefully we'll be able to mitigate some of it. PFAS is not going to go away, but we want to prevent additional draining into the wells where we're getting our public water supply. So that is an ongoing process right now. I understand they have 115 samples that they have taken from previous either from the Stone and Webster, Stone and Webster that did the first evaluation on the McNeil dump, and then Weston and Sampson. I'm sorry, I'm looking at Stone and Webster was an engineering company we used years ago for other things, and they are going to be able to individually do each one of those samples and create a fingerprint so that we know what's happening with each source that we know is of a concern and be able to track it and to which well it happens to be infecting. So that is an ongoing, we hope we continue with until we have a completed report. But Weston and Sampson is cooperating. Environmental Partners, which they're kind of meshing some of their records. Weston and Sampson is supposed to continue with an additional phase 2, but they're waiting for the DEP to actually give them some of the approvals that they're going to need to do that. And DEP is just dragging their feet, and they have been for the better part of 9 months. And nobody knows why. They're probably inundated from other communities that want to do similar studies. And the DEP has to approve and set out parameters for them to be able to do it. So that's where we are today.
Well, thank you so much for investigating that and sharing with us a better understanding, at least for me, about what forensic footprint means or fingerprint means. So would the forensic fingerprint be done before Weston and Sampson does anything else? Is the fingerprint the first step?
Somewhat simultaneously, and Weston and Sampson is going to share any results that they get, and so that we can expand what the fingerprints, how many they're going to be, and how many we're going to need to be able to determine which site. I mean, it looks like the old Duxbury dump, which was capped back in the 70s, was capped under the standards of what was happening in 1970, which is not appropriate for today. But it looks like, because it was an existing dump for so long, an open pit, that it may be one of the transgressors, one of the biggest ones. They may have to go back in. Unfortunately, some of it is covered with the what did the town put in? They leased the land to a company that has the oh God, what are they called? Electronic. It'll come to me at some point. It's been a long.
The solar panels?
Solar panels, thank you, Bruce. But they're on top of it.
Okay.
Are some of it. And hopefully, they need to be able to get a perimeter of how big that dump site was. And it started, I think, in around 1990, 1900. And it was a pit that they kept either pushing over to one side and making a bigger pit, and then filling some of it in, leveling it out. I mean, I remember going to it. People that have been in town long enough will remember that dump. But it was brought up to grade, covered with a certain amount of soil and a grass seed on top of it. And today you need a permeable membrane, as well as other things in order to seal it, so that when rain comes through, it's not going to continue to force the bad stuff down into the groundwater. Does that make sense?
Yes, the way you explained it, thank you very much. I understand.
I have a question. I think I saw something about a new well.
There is no new wells planned that I'm aware of.
Okay.
But there is a proposal, and it's ongoing for the Partridge well that has been closed. And there is some movement on how they're going to be able to open the Depot Street that's been closed for 4 or 5 years, because Depot Street not only has some PFAS, but they've got manganese. And those are 2 different filters, unfortunately. So they have to do 2 different applications for Depot Street.
Right.
But those are some of the smaller wells and some of the older wells. And there is a committee within the town that is being chaired by Candy Martin, I think her last name is, and the water superintendent is on that committee, as well as the water advisory board. And they meet along with in conjunction with And we get information that they are collecting and what direction they feel that they need to recommend to the Board of Selectmen, because they are the water commissioners.
Okay.
And they will make the final decisions.
Any other questions? Okay. Great, thanks. Appreciate the update.
My pleasure.
All right, so lastly, Lauren, health agent updates.
Okay, hopefully I can get through this. My computer keeps freezing up. Oh, I'm gonna try to call in. My Wi-Fi keeps freezing up.
If you turn off the video,
Bear
sometimes
with
that
me just
helps.
a minute.
That's true. Decrease the bandwidth.
Can you hear me okay now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, so as you probably know, the town of Duxbury had a positive sample for West Nile virus in a mosquito. So the state epidemiologist gave us a call. They raised our risk level from low to moderate, and they found the mosquito in the southeast quadrant of town. It's a Culex pipiens. And then for Tripoli, we're still low risk, although most of the surrounding towns are moderate around us. So I've linked all of that information to the Board of Health webpage with an interactive map so that people can stay up to date with that. Also, we are in full swing with digitizing our records. We have 1/3 of the records off-site now being scanned. And so requests that we get in that seem to be more than normal figures. It's going smoothly. We put in a request and they send the file back to us digitally within 72 hours. And then the last thing I wanted to mention was that the South Shore Recycling Cooperative released their fall 2024 household hazardous waste collection schedule, and that's linked on our website as well. Looks like I'm frozen. Did you hear any of that? I'm sorry.
I did.
Okay, good.
Yeah, no, we got that. I don't know if you have the COVID-19 numbers, but I think
Oh, I
it's
do.
on,
I'm sorry. I got
it's on the
sidetracked.
rise, I think, right?
Yes. So Kathy sent me the stats from July 18th through August 14th.
Mhm.
COVID-19 under age 5, 1, over age 5, under 18, 2, and then 18 and older, 31. For Lyme, there are 6 probable and 6 suspect. We have 2 babesiosis, 4 anaplasmosis, 1 influenza A, 1 salmonellosis, 1 campylobacterosis, and 1 cryptosporidiosis. And Kathy just wanted to point out that this time last year, there were 11 cases of COVID-19 and 19 cases of Lyme. So COVID is definitely higher and Lyme is a little bit less.
Okay.
Lauren, I have a question about the records you were talking about getting digitized.
Sure.
Is that all of the like all the Board of Health like historical records and such, all the as-built and those kinds of records that you're talking about?
Yes, and we will be getting the hard copies back. This is just so that we'll have it as a cloud-based system so that when somebody requests something, we have it at our fingertips and can send it right over via email.
Okay, but we'll still have all the hard copies somewhere? Or are we
Oh,
gonna be able to
yes.
get those?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I was just curious about that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a question. Do you have an intern?
Yes, I wanted to mention that too. Thank you. I'm getting off track because my computer keeps freezing. I apologize. We did. So we had a summer intern, Harrison Vose. He's a Duxbury High School graduate and he's a rising junior at Tufts University. He reached out in July seeking an internship with the Board of Health. So it took a little while to get him onboarded through the town, but he was able to come in and we showed him around. We showed him what we do. I wish we had had more time, but he does go back to school this weekend. So there's always potential for him to come see us over break, Christmas break or whatnot. And I know he was really interested in epidemiology. So there is still the opportunity of possibly connecting him with our grant epidemiologist to see if, they could connect and but he seems like a really great kid. He's got a good head on his shoulders and he's going to go far. So it was exciting to have him.
Was she going to work on finding cesspools?
So we really only had 3 days with him. So we didn't get to that point. But once we get all of our records digitized, we should be able to do a quick search. And for anything with the word cess or cesspool, it should give us a much better idea and much easier way to filter all of our records.
So besides using sort of an AI filter, you would also be able to, I think someone that with some time would have to do this, right? Try to cross-check if there isn't a plan for a septic system, then there has to be a little bit of research, right? To understand if it's a
Yes,
cesspool or just omitted or lost in the
that-
shuffle and those types of things. Yeah.
that's correct. Because oftentimes if it's a cesspool, we won't even have an address card at all. So it can get tricky. But when we do get our records back, we're gonna have to physically put everything back in. And like we're doing a third at a time, so it's not so overwhelming. So I feel pretty confident that we'll be able to at least get a better idea of how many are still out there and come up with for it that way.
Mrs. Chin, you have a comment or a question?
I have a question. Will you be able to tell how many private wells there are when you have those records scanned in?
So yes, so I did a report maybe back when I started that I used our permitting software, which was integrated with the old system, to run a report to show all of the well construction permits. And then I separated them by irrigation and potable, and then organized it by address. The problem is some of these older wells never pulled a permit. So we're still, but it gives us a better idea. And then I think it was Emily in the planning department helped us to create that a graph that showed the wells that were around the McNeil dump. And I know that I think Weston and Sampson or Environmental Partners, one of them was involved and we handed all of that over to them too. But it's tricky with wells because people, they may not have pulled a permit. So then I'll always cross-reference with the state's well, but then they might not have been registered there either. So
Can you compare it all with water bills that go out?
yes, so we did do that as well. So after I made this large spreadsheet and we focused on obviously the potable drinking wells, we sent that to the water department and they were able to go address by address and mark off which ones had connected to town water. So, and I can send you all of that, Becky, tomorrow if you want to see it.
Great.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Yep, no problem.
I got a question. Becky, do you know anything about the new regulations?
That they're proposing as far as people tried to put irrigation. I understand that the select board is not going to allow people to put irrigation systems into their home and hook onto town water. They're going to have to drill a well.
Yeah, the problem, I have a problem with that, but if you don't have a problem, then, I mean, the issue is it's sort of a game being played in terms of the aquifer.
That's right. They're
And
taking
how much
water out of
water,
the aquifer.
and so the more people that we can get using private wells, then the private wells statistics don't go into the allowable amount for the state requirement for the allowable amount per person or per household.
You're
And
absolutely right, Bruce.
Pembroke,
And
I know that Pembroke has a similar situation. So, and they got very, very good statistics, much better than ours. But it's just a game. I mean, it's all coming out of the same aquifer.
yes, it is.
And,
You're absolutely correct.
maybe 100 years from now or 200 years from now, you know, the water is going to be gone.
I think the town is pretty confident, however, that we actually have a very adequate supply of water, but the
Yes, I
state is
know.
trying to
I know.
regulate how much we can use each year. And we've been going over those allowable limits for a number of years. And I believe the town may or may not be hit with some fines for doing that. I think the town wants to stay within the parameters that the state is allowing us, but we have a very fine, high quality, high yield aquifer under our shore, under our community, and we're very fortunate. I don't think that there's any great risk to it. I mean, that's the assumption from the water department. So I believe the selectmen, I think it's that people are abusing the use of water, some homeowners, and they want to make it a little more conscious for you. If you want to put a system onto your house where you can automatically turn on sprinklers. And I know right now they're supposed to be connected to rain, so that if there's a certain amount of rain, the water irrigation systems are not supposed to go on. But I think they're older systems that are not connected. But everything that's in the ground or in this connected now is going to be grandfathered.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Any more questions for Lauren?
I just have one quick one. I noticed on the agenda, it says the next meeting is on September 20th, but I believe that's a Friday. Should that be the 19th instead?
It should be. Sorry about that. Oh, I should. Yeah, you're right. September 19th. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Thank
Want to
you.
make sure.
Okay. Other questions or comments? Mike, how about you? Are you all set? Any questions or comments?
I was just kind of thinking about what Bruce was talking about, and maybe that'd be a good idea for one of the interns would be to maybe research some, you know, lawn seed mix that requires less watering to reduce people withdrawing from the aquifer. Just as a overall win-win as far as reduction in fertilizer and nitrogen loading to the bay, and possibility of, if there's been any, recent, discoveries or regulations in other towns that they've required a certain seed mix for coastal properties.
Lauren, is that something for the grant? Is there anyone on the grant that might have a level of expertise in that?
Yep, I can certainly ask. Because, we have Kingston and Plymouth along the coastline too, so, and Wareham. So yeah, I can ask, I can reach out to those other communities to see if they've researched that or, and that could be something if the intern's interested. He did mention that he could research things from remotely from school, so see if he's interested in looking into that.
Bruce, does that seem like something that would kind of go along the lines of what your concerns are? Bruce, do you hear me?
I think anything that's done, I mean, I guess I'm convinced that the water supply is, I know that, I mean, the more I personally have a certain attitude about fertilizers and pesticides, and I walk through my neighborhood and I see signs that say caution on the lawns, and this all goes, eventually, I don't think it's all filtered out. I think it goes on into the aquifer, and I think that I'm personally against the big lawns and all this, but this is totally out of folk. Well, nobody else believes this, but well, there are a few people here that believe that in the long run, this is not a good idea. So anything we can do to stop it. And right now, this is such a great resource that we have, and in our bay with our farms and everything. And I feel like we need to do everything we can to protect that. And that's why I've been pushing those nitrogen sensitive areas. And I believe that eventually we're going to be under the same regulations that the Cape is under now. And I think that we should be planning for that in terms of how what we're going to do, or we should even accelerate it and do it ourselves to protect our bay and our wetlands and our ponds. And then we have the chemicals that just go back into the water, and we're certainly looking at that. But I think that we need to worry about these, or somebody needs to worry about it. And you don't really see much effort yet in the planning and zoning and the select board.
Well, I think, I think
sooner or later it's going to hit us here. In fact, right now, there is a special committee that was put together to study the nitrogen issues around the bay, and we all don't know what's causing all this, but we have an idea. But by supporting these private wells, we know what they're going to be used for. They're going to be used for irrigation, and we know that people are going to continue to put Roundup or whatever, all these pesticides. And it's not just nitrogen. I mean, it's the whole environment. It's birds, it's insects, You know, we kill dragonfly, dragonflies eat mosquitoes. It's just silent spring, I guess. Anyway, so that's so anything we do, in my mind, as a Board of Health or the zoning or planning or select board, to try to mitigate all this, the better off we are. And I've sat in these meetings and I've heard the people say we've got a river flowing underneath our the aquifer is a river, but that river is going into the bay. And they say it is. Now, Becky's study, or Becky just talked about a study to find out exactly where it all is going, and et cetera, and also the sources of the chemicals. But it's not just chemicals that we should worry about. Anyway, that's.
Thank you. So, Lauren, you'll next time give us a report as we talk to our surrounding towns and your counterparts or your peers to see what we can understand about fertilizer, right? And
Yes.
to mitigate what we talked about. Okay.
Yes, yes, I can do that.
All right. So I think that's a place to start. Wonderful. All right. Any other comments? All right. Well, I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right. We'll see you next month. Thank you very much. Have a good evening. Appreciate your time and
Thank-
attention.
Have a nice
Thanks,
remaining summer, everybody.
Too, thank you.
You too. Good night.
Bye,
Good
good night.